So that was my bad. Yeah, I changed it. Thank you, Frank. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go get started. Thank you to everybody who did the assignment yesterday, the Mental Health Monday assignment. Remember, I gave you guys different options on how to do it. You could either have done the Flipgrid, you could have done a drawing, you could have done a short story, both either written or verbally if you wanted to. You could have just created anything and then taken a picture of it. If you did do the Flipgrid and you got a 0 today, just remember the instructions had said, since I had to do the Flipgrid a little differently, I had to create a different group for you guys to do that in, since I was giving you all the other options. I told you that you needed a type Flipgrid so you wouldn't get 0 in the text entry at the bottom. So if you got a 0 and you did a Flipgrid, that's why. So just go back through and do that. The reason why, and you'll still get the full credit. You'll still get credit if it was on time. But the reason why it gave you as a 0 is that it was showing that you didn't turn anything in, because when it's just a normal Flipgrid assignment, it'll give you, it'll like turn it in for you. But if I'm giving you all the other options, you have to type that in. So that way it won't like mark it as you didn't do anything. So just if you had a 0 and you did the Flipgrid, that's why. So I just wanted to clear that up. So today we are going to be doing our first brief write of the semester. We have done a short story. You guys did the biographical essay, but neither of those had really any like evidence in it. So this is going to be the first writing assignment where we're going to be using evidence from the story that we read. And the cool thing about this story is that it is a combination of the movie and the short story. So it's going to be about both. So if you did the discussion, first of all, you got points for doing the discussion, but also it's going to help you hopefully with the actual writing that we're going to be doing. So this is the prompt for Harrison Brief Write. I'll take just a second, have you guys read that. Okay, so again, you should have read that. The prompt is basically talking about like how in the discussions, how we talked about tone. And I gave you that big wheel of tone words where it had, you had the basic words in the middle, and then it got more detailed as you expanded out in the circle. So you can totally use that to find words that will help you. You can even use the same words that you talked about in the discussion or saw other people use. That's totally fine. This is going to be a unit check assignment, which means that it checks for plagiarism. So you want to make sure that you are, you want to make sure that you're doing that. You want to make sure that you're not, copying anybody else's work, because again, the department policy is if you plagiarize from somebody, and that includes the people who share their work, both people will get a 0. So do not share your paper with anybody. And I say this all the time, and without fail, somebody will ignore this, but if somebody asks for a sample of an assignment of like a brief write, it's like, oh, I just want to see how you did it. 9 times out of 10, they're going to copy your work and you're going to get in trouble for letting them plagiarize. So if somebody says that, just, you can help them. You can give suggestions. Don't share your paper though, because it will get passed around. It will be used to be plagiarized more than likely. So just, again, you can help them if they have a question about how to do something. I'm totally fine with that. And I'd be naive to think that nobody's going to ask for other people for help. But again, just don't share your paper. Okay. So in this prompt, again, you're going to be looking again at the differences in tone between the movie and the short story, because there was a big difference in tone between the two of them. Harrison Bergeron, the character, was presented one way in the short story, and he was presented in a totally different way in the movie. Also, not just that character too. Just think about like the ballerinas and how they dance, and how Harrison and the Harrison and the ballerina dance in the story versus how they dance in the movie. So there's a lot of examples for you guys to pull from in that. So you're going to need 2 quotes for this paragraph, and this is just one paragraph. So if you haven't done a brief write before, like let's say you're new to the district, if you're not new to the district, you guys did brief writes your freshman year, and it's just a 1 paragraph response. Granted, it's a longer paragraph. So you're going to need 2 quotes. 1 quote is going to be from the short story to show the tone of that story. 1 example is going to be from the film, and you're going to again use the both. You're going to use the examples from those 2 different versions to talk about like how the tone was portrayed in each one and how it was different from the other one. So that's where your explanation is going to come into play. So each example is going to require 2 to 3 sentences of explanation, explaining what was the tone, why was that tone important, how did it change the story, how is it different from the other one. So there's a lot you should be talking about in the explanation. I shouldn't see like your example, and I shouldn't see the tone was serious because he didn't smile. That's not an explanation. How is it different from the other version? Why do you know that was a tone? Why was that important? Like, how did that make it different? So that's the kind of stuff you need to be talking about. So in the chat, what I would like you guys to do really quick is first tell me what should be the first sentence of your paragraph. What kind of sentence should it be for your paragraph? And again, I'm the only one who should see it. So if you get it wrong, again, just take a guess. What is the name of the first type of sentence you should be writing in your paragraph, in your brief write? Okay, I get 3 responses so I should see about 22 more roughly. And I'll give you guys a hint. So the brief write is basically, if we were writing an essay, this would be your body paragraph, essentially. This is just basically a body paragraph without a formal introduction, a formal conclusion. So far, I'm seeing 2 different responses. One is definitely correct, and one's not entirely incorrect. So it's actually it's partially true. So nobody's like completely off, which is good. Yes, this assignment is only 1 paragraph. Now the paragraph is probably going to be closer to about 10 sentences, just because that's how long your body paragraphs should usually be. When you guys are writing, again, we're getting away from the like 5-sentence rule, like saying that you guys did in elementary school. We're getting into our big boy and girl paragraphs. So we want to make sure that we're having good detail, multiple examples to help prove a point. Because when you're trying to prove something, if you can only point to 1 example, often it's not usually a good argument. You need to have multiple examples to back up your argument. So that's why usually we go with a couple of examples for each paragraph. All right, so I would say that probably the most correct answer would be topic sentences, because you're needing to explain what the paragraph is going to be about. Those of you who said attention grabber or hook, especially for a brief write, since there is no formal introduction, you can make it the topic sentence, an attention grabber and a hook, but most importantly, it does need to tell me what the paragraph is going to be about. So in this case, what is this paragraph going to be about? Again, if you guys could put that in, and I'm actually going to make it to where everyone can see, because I want you guys to be able to see this next part. Okay, so if you guys could go to everyone in meeting now when you write, so where it says 2, everyone in meeting, go ahead and type. What is the topic sentence going to be about? And you don't have to write out your topic sentence. Just tell me what it's supposed to be about in this case, in this body paragraph. Okay, so yes, Joshua, that's partially it, the difference in tone. What else are we what other kind of information do we need to put in the topic sentence other than the two different tones? Okay. Yeah. So between the film and the short story, and then even more specifically, you need to name them. So again, the name of the short story and the movie have different titles. So Harrison Bergeron is the title of the short story, and the title of the film is 2081, which is again the year from the short story that says that it took place. So you need to make sure that you're including what are the two tones you're going to be talking about and which of those, which version had which tone. So um, you need to make sure that you guys are starting off your paragraph with that. So good. Looks like you guys are getting it. So after you do your topic sentence, usually, and you might not have been taught this, but this is where you kind of like you lead the reader into what you like your evidence that you're going to be talking about. So almost imagine that you're going to be giving like kind of like a brief summary of what's happening in the story when you give the quote. So for example, if you're using the short story Harrison Bergeron, if your first example is going to come from that and you're going to talk about like how in the short story Harrison and the ballerina were dancing and like let's say like they were like jumping really high in the air, like they were jumping like almost touching the ceiling, which again is very different than how it's portrayed in the movie. But if you're talking about that, you need to explain that like after Harrison had got on stage and he chose one of the ballerinas to be his empress, they begin to dance, and then that's when you introduce your quote. Just remember that when you're doing your quotes, you shouldn't have it just like you should never start a sentence off with just your quote. You should always start the sentence off with your own words first. So you could say something to the effect of like, after Harrison had chosen the ballerina to be his empress, comma, and then you like maybe have the quote that like ties to that, you know? So you always want to have your own words should always start off the sentence. You should never start off the sentence with your quotes. Okay, so just general rule of thumb, that's the best way to do it. You want to start it off introducing what's happening in the quote, explaining what's happening in the story. So make sure that you do that. Then once you give your quote, what should you put in parentheses after your quote? So if it's from the short story, for example, what would you put in the quote? Right. So it should look like, and it's only 4 pages. So it should be your words, comma, quote. And again, I'm putting this on, I will put this video on. So if you don't see the chat, I'll explain what I'm putting in the chat in just a second. So again, you should start off the sentence with your words, and that's what I put in the chat. Then should come the quote, then the author's last name, and then the page that you got it from. And remember, this only has 4 pages, so 1, 2, 3, or 4. You don't write page at all in the parentheses, and if you guys notice, the period goes after the citation. It does not go in the quote. The only time you would put punctuation at the end of the quote if it was a question or an exclamation. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit enter. But you would still put the period at the end. So again, if the quote ends in a period, just put the period at the end. If it ends in a question mark or an exclamation point, you leave those there, but you still put the period after the parentheses. So again, if we're not 100% right, I'm not focusing so much on like your correct citation. The point of this brief write is to make sure that you can take examples from two different sources and be able to give good explanations. That's what I'm mostly looking for, is your explanation. So the biggest part of your grade is the 2 to 3 sentences after your quote. So that's again going to be the most important part. So I'm going to take a pause real quick, and I want to like address any questions that you guys have. So either in the chat, and I'm going to change it back to just host only. Type in a question if you have it, if there's something that I've mentioned that's unclear. If you get it, just type that you got it, but I want to see everybody respond, either asking a question or tell me that they're good at least. So that way I know that you're not just ignoring it. So again, I should see about 26, 27. Okay. And so to address this question, because I've already got a couple of people asking it, it is due Friday. We are going to be working on it during the asynchronous time today, and we might work on it a little bit during Thursday during the asynchronous time. So I am going to have you guys stay on today to work on it, because I want you to work on it while I'm still on. That way, if you have questions, you need help, again, I'm going to be here to help you guys. You need one quote from the short story, and you need one quote from the film. And the quote from the film doesn't have to be an exact quote. It could be a paraphrase. So you could put in your own words what happened in there. But for the movie, the way you're going to cite it, because even though you're paraphrasing it, you still have to cite it. You're just going to put the title of the film in quotations in parentheses. So that's how it should look for the film cite when you cite your film. So that way I know when you're talking about the short story, it'll say Vonnegut, who's the author's last name, which again, it's in the prompt if you get confused. So, all right, before we get started, here's what I need everybody to do. I need everybody to create a Google Doc. So go ahead and do that. And then you're going to share that doc with me. So I'll put in, again, every, if you just type my name, you should find it. But when you go to share it, make sure you're sharing it like that. And again, to share a Google Doc, if you forgot, because it's been a while, it's just a little person with a plus symbol next to it. So I'm going to check shared with me, and I should start seeing a bunch of docs getting shared. If you could also put your, sorry, in the title, put your name and then like Bergeron brief, right? So Antoine, I mean, it should give you that option. If you could take a screenshot and send it to me and remind, I will take a look and see what the issue is. Again, if you could send a screenshot, and I'll see if I can figure out what's going on. Okay, so again, for your title, thank you, Mariah. If you could change your title name for those of you who have turned it in. Again, your first and last name should be in the title of your page. You don't have to unshare it, just change your title, and so that way I could see it. This is going to be part of your participation points today. Is you need to, from like class today, you need to share this with me, so that way I can see it and I can maybe leave comments or just help you out if you need it. Okay, so far I got, let's see, I'm refreshing it to see if I get more. Okay. So far, the only ones that I see with names on them are I have, let's see, I have Camilla, Kathleen, Ryan, Brandon, Aaron, Miguel, Aaron R. And again, I think I said Mariah, but if I didn't, Mariah. Armando P, I got yours. Joshua, I got yours. Again, if you could put your first and last name first, that way it's easier to see. I have an untitled document. I don't know who that belongs to, so they won't get points until they change their document name. I have a brief write ruled lit. I don't know who that belongs to. So again, if you can change your name so that way I can see. Okay, I got about 16, 17 now. Just a reminder that it says there's 28 participants, but one of them is me and one of them is my student teacher. So we should actually have 26. So I need about 8 or 9 more people to do that. And then Andres, is it still not letting you share? If it's not letting you, send me a screenshot. I'll remind and I can help you out. Oh no, Andres, I got yours. You're good. You figured it out. Okay, well, there's a few of you who are not going to be getting points unless you guys share your doc with me. So again, this really easy points. Just create a Google Doc and share it with me. Is there anybody else who's having difficulty or needs help? If you are, again, send me a screenshot on Remind so that way I can help you. Okay, so I'm going to switch my screen so that way I can show you the assignment, the actual assignment that you're going to be submitting it to. Okay, so in this assignment, I gave you guys a sample of what a brief write should look like. And I used 7 floors, so something we should all be familiar with for a story. You'll notice that it's highlighted. So again, we talked about the first sentence being the topic sentence. So this is what it should look like. The second sentence is the introducing, like kind of the story and the quote that I'm going to be using. And then if you, again, look at the teal is the quotes. So again, we should all be looking at this screen right now. Everybody see it? Yeah, again, the brief writes are similar to what you guys have done before, but there's some people who might be new to it. There's some people who maybe they didn't get it the first time. So I just want to make sure that we are hopefully getting it. One important thing that a lot of people don't really think about when they're writing is that this purple sentence in the middle here is called a transition. So it says, while he seems fairly reasonable about his first move down, he becomes increasingly agitated until he completely breaks down for his final move, right? So I'm talking about like the difference between this first quote and the second quote. So that's going to be your transition is going to be where you transition from one version of the story to the next. So you need to make sure that you have a transition sentence in there that gets us from the one version that you're talking about first to the next version. And then again, we go back to teal. The teal is a quote, and then these blue ones here are the explanations. So they should be 2 to 3 sentences explaining how your quotes not only show the tone, but how the tone was different from the other version. So make sure that you're talking about both of those things. And then the last sentence, if this was a body paragraph in a multi-paragraph essay, it would be a transition sentence. It would be making some form of connection, talking about maybe the similarities, maybe talking about the differences between this topic and the next topic. But since we are only writing this one paragraph, this is going to be a concluding statement. So you're going to make some form of statement where you wrap up the ideas of your paragraph. And when I say wrap up the ideas, I know that's kind of vague, but it basically means that you're going to be talking about the significance, the importance of what you wrote about. What can we take from this, like in a more universal, like life message, or how is this important? Like maybe like how was this important to the two different versions? Why is tone important? So there's a lot of different angles you can go from for your concluding statement, but it should definitely talk about the significance or importance of the topic. Okay. So again, this is on the actual assignment where it says look at the sample. And then I also gave you guys that you guys still can use those tone words that I gave you for the discussion, but I gave you this one too. And the thing I like about this one, it gives you a lot of good words to use, a lot of good tone words, but it also gives you definitions of the word. So if you don't know what they mean, it gives you a brief description of what the word means. So definitely use that to come up with good words, because I really want us to not use words like sad or happy, or I want you guys to use a little bit more advanced words to describe the tone of the brief write. So I'm gonna again have you guys stay on. We have about an hour left of class, so I really feel that most of you should be able to finish this within the hour, honestly, because again, you're writing 10 sentences, so that's basically one sentence every 6 minutes, basically, which is completely doable. If you do finish it, again, you'll be good. I'm gonna give extra credit to people who finish it tomorrow night. So again, I know I haven't given extra credit for the magic realism, but I will, just like I did with the essay, the biography essay. I gave you guys extra credit. So just make sure that if you guys submit this by Wednesday, you'll get extra credit, but the actual due date is going to be Friday night. So if you turn it in early, you guys will get extra credit. Any questions?